Like,
Hello, everybody. I'm just saging because Lyra, Laura, and I just had a very deep conversation about things before recording. So,
oh,
and also enjoy the
look at
view.
that. Look at that view. That is the most beautiful view ever. The mountain.
I know. And it's my view, and I love it.
Yeah, right where they are right on shot. God.
Sorry.
I
I
have
told
a
you,
view of a tree and cloudy skies and rain. That's my view.
but nature is so beautiful. The rain brings cleansing.
Yeah, it's coming all right. Holy smokes, this morning. I love rainy days, though. I love rainy days. But today, it was like extra. It was just a lot of Persian, you know?
Oh, those are good
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Yeah. Second date.
Speaking of purging, which I guess doesn't really have anything to do with purging, we were going to talk about on today's episode email readings and what they are, what they can look like, kind of what the process is. I actually that was one of the first services I ever got from Lyra when I first met her back in 2020. And I actually printed out some of them. Oh no, I'm gone. Printed out some of them so I could share maybe one day, on a podcast. This is kind of what I wanted to do was share with the world like the messages that
Oh,
I have received that have helped me on my journey and to just highlight the gifts that Lyra has and just like how she's progressed over the years too. Like I've noticed a huge difference from like my first email readings to my most recent one. So now fast forward 4 years, just how much more opened and profound the messages and the healing is because I've allowed myself to let go of so much in order to get to where I'm at now. So,
that's one. Yeah, COVID really opened up a lot of avenues for me because were on lockdown and
mhm.
everything had to go online, and which is fine with me. I prefer online. Just my own personal thing. But yeah, the email reading, how I got started with it, I used to work for the psychic in the UK,
Cool.
and he would get like hundreds of requests, and they
Oh,
needed help. They needed help. And I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. Let me try that and see how it goes. And holy smokes. I really, really enjoyed it. And so I thought, well, I'm going to just try and do it on my own services. And it really took off. A lot of people enjoy them. And I love doing them, especially on days like today with the
oh,
rain,
absolutely.
because spirit is drawn with water. The water is the conduit.
Wow.
It draws them closer, and I just blast my music, zone in, I lock into my energy with the email person, the person who
Hmm.
got me the request, and I just go. And half the time I don't even know what I'm typing until after I proofread it.
Hmm.
And it's just like sometimes I'm just like, whoa, where did that come from? you know, I love it. It's like one of my, well, I have a lot of favorite things that I like to do, but email reading I like on days like today, especially because I can just kind of be in the zone and nobody bothers me.
I love that. I wish
Yeah.
nobody would bother me.
Might regret that someday. No, I'm kidding.
Mm.
Hmm. But yeah, it's really, and some of the things that come through, and as the years have gone by, I have learned to let my guard down. I'm not worried about saying the wrong thing anymore because if that's what the truth is, it's how you deliver it in an email that's a challenge, But most times, if you have to deliver something that's maybe not in the most favorable light, there's a way to word it so that it doesn't seem so
Hmm.
devastating or the person take it the wrong way. You know what I mean? And I usually try to follow that up with something positive so it's not bad. I will
Right.
never, just so people out there know, I will never predict a death. I don't know why people ask me that question over and over again. They want to know when someone's going to die. And I will not do that. I don't think it's my place to do that. Just putting that out there only because it's not ethical. I don't think it
Yeah.
is.
Well, and I think that people ask those types of questions, going on like the deep end of things as far as like, when is this person expected to die? They have a cancer diagnosis and they're on hospice. So I just want to know. But I think that's because that is the human
Yeah.
nature of just like wanting to know and not being comfortable in that space of uncertainty and not knowing. I will say I know last year, for people who may not know, I became a primary caregiver for my grandfather. And we can go on a whole nother tangent about this. I would like to do an episode on the grieving process and grief and just
Yeah.
like how you have helped me and all of the spiritual tools that I have in my toolbox, how it's helped me through some pretty dark times. Like losing my grandma in 2020 was probably honestly my first conscious death in my life, meaning like I've had people pass away prior to 2019, obviously. I mean, that's just the circle of life, but to be so aware of the heaviness of everything that surrounded that person and their journey and what was happening in the family dynamic and things like that. So that's a podcast for another day, but where was I going with all of that though?
Um, I said I won't predict the
Oh,
death.
doing the
Yeah.
death thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So I know last year my grandfather had a pretty traumatic fall. Um, a whole slew of things happened. He eventually was diagnosed with AML cancer, which is like a rare form of leukemia of the blood.
Oh.
And in, I think it was March or April, his oncologist pretty much told us, his levels have not really increased at all as far as responsiveness to um his treatments and stuff that he was doing, chemo. He was doing blood transfusions and things like that, and he was just like in a lot of pain. And the oncologist wound up telling us, that the dying process has started. The reason being is because this is the trend we're seeing in his results and his numbers and things like that. And I know a few people in our family had asked, well, how much time do we have? I'm guilty of not
Well,
necessarily asking, but like wondering, because my thought was, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose him.
yeah. And how
How
can we
much
be
how much time
comfortable?
do I have to spend
Yeah.
with him and make sure that he feels comfort and love and to make sure that like everything is going to be perfect for him to transition. So I mean, I think that's just the human nature of wanting to know
Well,
that, but go ahead.
well, let me just clarify. There has been a lady who reached out to me
Mhm.
not too long ago about wanting to know when her dad was going to pass because she wanted the inheritance money so she could move.
Ooh.
And I'm just like, no, I no. The dad wasn't sick. He was still living life in another
Okay.
state, and I don't know if there was like maybe conflict between the two of them, or
Mm,
I'm not gonna do that. First
no.
of all, Spirit wouldn't tell me. Because I blocked that. I don't
Yeah.
want to know that. But how am I going to say? Oh, he's going to die on May 5th, 19 or what are we? We're in the 20s. Never mind. 2027. Oops. And you know what I mean? And then May 5th, 2027 comes, and maybe there was a change of plans and he decided to live longer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with saying, oh, your dad's going to die in this state.
But I think too, like because we have the gift of free will here on this earthly plane,
Yes.
and things change on our path and things like that. Like if you were to give, like you said, like April whatever of 2027, and that day comes and he's still here, then that person's going to come back and be like, well, you said he was going to die. Well, maybe his spirit said, well, I'm gonna prove you wrong because you're not getting that inheritance.
Yeah.
Because also that is
Yes, yes.
that's like such the wrong intention to like
To want to,
attempt to, yeah, to get that
yeah.
information. Like
I
that makes
just
me feel
don't,
icky.
just not ethical. And poor dad, like again, I
Yeah.
don't know the situation in that scenario, but there are two sides to every story. You can't always just be like,
Hmm.
hey, oh, well, I'm just going to tell you because he's such a jerk. Well, what if the daughter did something
Sure.
to activate that reaction and maybe they were both wrong, and bottom line, don't ask me when your spouse or your parent or your friend or relative is going to die because you want an inheritance. Don't do it. It's not going to happen.
And that is that.
Boundary.
That's funny. Well, it's not funny, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But it's just amazing though how beautiful an email reading can be when you have the purest of intentions. And I had validation. I love validation, by the way, because it shows me that I'm not making stuff up.
Hmm.
And I love stories. I really, really encourage my clients to tell me a story regarding whatever, something resonates with them. If they
Hmm.
choose to. If they don't want to, that's okay too. I don't need to know, but I love stories,
I
and
do too.
this one this one lady that I just did a couple of days ago, I kept seeing her grandmother around her with the greens and blues around this person, and I kept hearing peacock. I'm like, I don't know why, but I feel like there's a peacock colors or your grandmother had something to do with peacocks or whatever. And she wrote me back and she said, I had to really sit and pause because you're not going to believe this. She says, my grandmother with the blues and green that was her colors, and she felt like the peacock was her spirit animal. And I was like, whoa. And then she was going on telling me how she has peacock slippers and her kids gifted her peacock things. I can't remember
Oh,
exactly.
cool.
So that was a big validation for her. And then it was validation for me that, like, hey, I didn't just make that up.
I will say that it is definitely rewarding for you to get validation with these types of things. Like, I know I try to validate you as much as I can just because I know that the times that I give you messages and things like that, that I just kind of randomly pick up, you validate me. Oh, I was dealing with this, or I was literally just doing this thing that you said that you see me doing or whatever. And like the messages that come through, and it builds up your confidence so that it opens you up to more to come through, the healing, the messages, spirit, the frequencies, all of those things. So I think I love stories too. So like, I printed out some of these I printed out some of these email readings, and when we're ready, like I would like to share some little snippets and stuff because you've definitely morphed your services in the way that you've structured your email readings from 2020 until now. Like I'm looking at one from 2021, and I've got one from 2020 in here, and I might have a more recent one too. But just like the way that you portray things. And I know that one of the most recent ones in maybe the end of 2023. No, no, no. Yeah, maybe the end of 2023. No, maybe it was during 2023. It was when my grandpa came through, okay? Regardless
Okay.
of when it happened. And I know that you and I are close, and you knew a lot about what was happening in my life with my grandpa when I was a caregiver. But in one of your email readings, you had said you see my grandpa laying in bed, and it's a hospital bed, and you see wooden um blinds or like curtains or whatever behind him, and they're slanted open a little bit, and you hear classical music playing, or jazz, or some sort of like healing frequency music, very quiet in the background, but you hear it. And as you're looking at him, you see that he's laying there and he's sleeping, and then he woke up and he took a tissue, he spit in the tissue and put it in a cup that's on his bedside. Now,
Oh, wow.
those are details that I would not have shared with anybody, like close or not close, as far as like what his everyday happenings were. He lived at my parents' house in their back, like rec room where now the kids all play. And he was in a hospital bed. And towards the end, he was getting a lot of like mucus, sputum stuff. And so he was taking tissues and he was spitting into the tissues, and he'd put it in a cup on his bedside to throw out later. And he an older guy, he loved watching the news. WGN was his thing. The View was his girls. We'd watch it every morning with our coffee. And he would take naps, and like he was a late owl, and he would try to watch TV at night. Well, my mom and I slept on the main floor, like feet from him, just in case he tried to get out of bed in the middle of the night, or if he needed something. We were very close by, and we were and we had baby monitors so that we could hear him. And if he needed us in the middle of the night for whatever reason, he could just go on the baby monitor and say, "Hey, I need you," and we can just go in there. So we were tired of hearing like the news at like 2:00 in the morning. Like, there is nothing like trying to fall asleep and like praying that like everything is good and like whatever, and then hearing like all of this bad negativity coming from the news, like as you're trying to sleep, the most vulnerable time during your day. So we started to put the sleep timer on the TV for it to shut off after a point, and we would turn on classical music on the radio next to his bed, quiet enough that he could hear some sort of background noise, because we think he wanted the background noise.
Okay.
And you brought forth all of those details in the email reading. And I never told you about any of that stuff, just because towards the end, things got very crazy, very chaotic with his health. He declined very quickly. And again, those aren't things that I would have shared with anyone, saying like, "Oh, he spits into a napkin," or, we're playing classical music because we're tired of listening to the news at 2:00 in the morning. And just, it's so powerful, the details and the evidence that you bring forward in these emails. Just to validate you, right now or whatever, but then also to show people that like this stuff isn't made up. Like that actually happened.
I don't think you ever told me all that in that detail. I know you said something. That was. I don't remember the spitting on the cup or the classical music, but I do remember the windows and him laying and stuff like that. And I think you were just telling me, "Oh, that made sense to me." And you were busy. You were distracted. You had a lot going on. So I don't think you really told me all those details.
Well, there you go. We're live on a podcast. I'm telling you.
You made my day. But I mean, it's so rewarding to me to be able to offer this service, because I feel like it's something you can refer back to and hopefully bring you comfort. I love that you did that. I love that you did that. You keep disappearing with the background.
That's because the universe is like, stop showing them. They have to get a reading themselves.
That's funny. But I also wanted to clarify too, like when people validate these readings, to me, it creates a bond and a spiritual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But in my experience, because like I'm able to go deeper in the more the time goes on,
Right.
and I really, it's really rewarding to me to hear this stuff. I'm on Medium Chat, doing it's like a psychic hotline.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of drives me a little nuts, because they're on a timer, and I have to try and spit out as much as I can. Yeah, and then they're like, well, anything else? Well, anything else? I'm like, well, does that make sense to you? Do I know I'm on the right path? You know what I mean? It's like, I want to just take my time. I want to do email reading. I just want to do this. I love doing this, you know, and I love the bond that it creates in the relationship. It's not, and I'm not saying like, oh, let's go for coffee every day, but it creates a relationship where it touches on a deeper spiritual level. Do
Mhm.
you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and you and I just happened to click, I think, as
Yeah,
time went on, and but we're actual friends, you know.
yep,
So I'm just grateful. I'm just so grateful how our journey started,
me
you
too.
know. So it's just I love that it started with an email.
Yeah, literally. I think this is actually I'd have to look back, but this might be the first email reading that I have gotten from you. It's dated November 21st of 2020, 9:50 a.m.
Ooh.
And I remember it was through Holistic Happenings in Tinley. But now, you're on your own, you're doing your own thing. You have a website, you have a Facebook page that people can kind of go to figure out what services they want to have you do with them or whatever. So this was through, a different company or whatever, but to just show people the extensiveness of an email reading. I mean, you're not going to be able to read it, obviously, but just to show you, and hopefully universe will let me show you, like, oh, ah.
Nope, you're gone. Oh, there you, nope. Okay, kind of. Is that a picture?
Yeah, I'm
I can,
trying to do it. Well,
it's done. There you
okay,
go.
check it out. So
Oh my gosh, that tablecloth.
you pulled tarot cards for me and you gave advice. And as you can see, I'm trying to not move. There's a bunch of paragraphs down here, and then a
Oh
whole
wow.
nother page which breaks out into a couple of other paragraphs. Oh,
Wow.
there we go. Yeah. So you pulled cards, um, and I think you also pulled. You used to do, or you still do. I don't know how popular it is. You also did charm readings, which I know you've posted recently in the Facebook group for mentorship and spiritual connections. But in this, I'll try kind of just give you like a little bit of oh, I can't read that. I was asking about my relationship with my now husband. So I'm not
Ooh.
going to read
Did it
that.
work out? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, we are married, so we're okay. No, but like just some of the things, like the next card has a woman on a boat riding waves. I feel this is a perfect metaphor for you. Ride the waves as you navigate through choppy waters. The year 2020 has been rough in so many ways, not just with the pandemic, but with emotional healing, relationship issues coming to the forefront, friendships being tested, and even being in a battle with our own selves. This was a lot to deal with. And then on top of it all, we are more aware and more connected spiritually more than ever before, which comes with its own set of challenges. I can see an older woman. She has brown hair with a tint of red in it. Oh, this is why this is coming through. She is saying, give yourself a break. Rome wasn't built in a day. She has a familiar laugh, and it feels like she's a grandmother in spirit. Of course, she's going to make me read that one.
Was that the first time I connected with her?
I think so, yeah. Because then it goes
Wow.
into her laugh is infectious. She said that she was a bigger lady towards the end of her life, but she did like to dress as if she was in style. Ha ha. She is fun, and she says that she kept a lot of things to herself, at least the important things that she did not think to talk about. She says that you're ahead of the game in the, oh, I'm getting goosebumps. She says you're ahead of the game in that area. I just lost my place. She said, and she's so proud of you. She says that you are moving forward nicely. Just take it one step at a time. She's giving me the impression that you're just wanting to get over this hump and move on already. However, she says that the stuff you're trying to heal goes back generations, and in time you will break free. And she says that you have already in some ways, but you're expecting fireworks. She says that you are needing to look back a little bit and reevaluate your boundaries. Could you be shifting in your progress a bit? Boundaries are a great guideline, but flexibility will allow you for growth and closure. And then, ooh, that's a good idea. You express yourself so beautifully, you should really write letters to everyone. Um, and then let's see. She's blowing you a kiss. She visits in your dreams. Um, yeah, so like that's just like a little bit of at least the first one where you connected with my grandmother, who passed in 2020. And
I
like I
love
said,
that.
you did write that. See, let me see if it'll come up.
Believe you. I love it. Lady Lara. Oh my gosh.
Like I said, your thing, like yeah, they I don't know, they had different like Lori Lavin and Lyra Aries and connections with Lyra. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
there's so many different things I need to print out.
Yeah, playing with the names a little bit.
And that's okay. And now you said you're happy with what the name is, so that's good.
Why? Yeah, yeah. You know, my given name for my dad. My dad's here, big time. So yeah. But getting back to that email reading, now I feel like I want to. Okay, just putting it out there too. I don't always remember what I
Mhm.
write because it's not for me to hold on to. I I I remember for like maybe a short period of time, but then it gets lost because it's really not for me to hang on to. You
Mhm.
know, and I want to always be authentic in my readings. I don't want ever people to think that I'm, oh, well, she said that last time, so she's just going to pull from that. I
Right.
don't ever want to do that and give people the wrong impression. I do try to be authentic as I possible. Excuse me. I had a point. Oh, I feel like you were probably my first email reading through Holistic Happening because
Mhm.
I don't remember really. Well, of course, I don't remember, but I really don't remember any other people reaching out to me through Holistic Happenings because I didn't understand what it was.
Oh.
So, and I was a little disappointed because when I was doing readings for that guy in England, it was a lot. Like I would spend hours on these email readings, and that's what I wanted my services to do, but I don't think it's big in the United States. I don't think people really understand what it is, but
Like what it is, meaning like what an email reading is,
yeah,
or
yeah, like
oh.
how can you connect that way? And I don't know how to explain it other than all I need is your name because your name has an energy to it.
Mhm.
And all I need is a question or two, and then I just go with that. And then it usually evolves into other things that maybe you don't think about, or maybe that you need to know, or whatever. And spirit will come through. Sometimes they don't, and it's just with the cards. It depends on what the person needs at that time.
Mhm.
You know.
I know that you've explained to me at the beginning, when I started doing these email readings, because like I when I was printing these out, I was getting one like maybe every other month or once a month. I was reaching out to you, and I think it was just because I was in a state of transition. The pandemic took a lot from me. It took family members from me. It took, just like everybody else, I mean, it took a job from me. It took motivation and energy from me. Um, and I was just in a state of like, who am I and what am I supposed to be doing here? Because I don't know. And I remember, in your once you said it, now I think it's a different process. I haven't gotten a reading in a couple of months, but I know that you would email and say, okay, do you have any questions? You can give up to, I think it was like 2 or 3 questions, and it can revolve around like your relationships, your finances, your career, spiritual growth, and then just like hearing from an ancestor or something. And
Mhm.
I remember I always typed in just like, I don't really have a question, just like I need advice, or I need someone to just tell me like, wake up,
Oh.
do the
Yeah.
dang thing, stop doubting yourself and
Just do it.
just so like I never, now I have morphed my like sessions with you to have some sort of like specific intention, and or a specific question, like, oh, one that keeps coming to my mind is, so my background is occupational therapy. I have my master's. I went to school for it, worked in the field for a few years. Life happened. I transitioned out of that and I was able to take care of my grandpa. Well, while I was in that transition of leaving the field and going into something totally 180, totally different, I went into glazing manufacturing, which is like commercial windows and glass and stuff. Like, do I look like I belong in a warehouse with a bunch of men? No. But I did it because the universe made me.
It sure did. They push you right
But,
into it.
and let me tell you, the universe is still telling me, like, you still need to work with these men because they need to learn something. So if you're a man, you need to learn something from me. Maybe not. I'm just being harsh. But maybe you could take some little tip or advice. I don't know. But I remember I had gotten an email reading from you, and I just started at this warehouse that I was working with at my husband's. So like imagine this, living in a small van. Well, our van is pretty big, but living in a small space with your husband, your spouse, whatever, and then also working with them.
Yeah.
Woof.
A lot of togetherness.
Yes. And we were just like adjusting to everything. And I remember reaching out to you being like, I can't do this. Please help me and give me some advice. And you wound up describing like, it's going to be okay. These people in the office are going to see your worth and your value. And they see that like you being in the shop is a good asset because I have pretty okay, good organizational skills as far as like keeping people in task. My way of organization seems disorganized according to my husband, but it works for me.
Yeah.
And you said, I see a guy coming to you and talking about a raise. And then you describe the background behind him. And you're like, I look up and I see a second level and I see boxes or like stuff behind him. And he looks like this and da 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 da. And then I remember, and maybe I remember telling you this, but again, maybe you don't remember it because the messages aren't for you. So there's no reason for you to hold on to that message, that energy, that healing. But I remember I approached my boss and was like, hey, like I had this thought and like, blah, 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 and like, as I was staring at him, he's like, oh yeah, well, like I'm working on giving you a raise and I'm working on transitioning you from like the floor into the office so that you could help this guy because he needs the extra help. So you would be like his assistant and blah, blah, blah. And then as that was all happening, like I got like, and like goosebumps. And as I looked
Wow.
behind him, in the warehouse we worked at, there was like a second floor loft area in the warehouse. And there were boxes right behind
No
him on
way.
that second area that you were
Wow.
probably seeing. And I remember texting you as soon as he walked away, and I was like, oh my God, remember that email reading you just did for me? And you said this and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and yeah, and then I got a raise and I was able to move off of the floor as a machinist into an office space. And I did more clerical administration work. I kept, the boys in line. I was kind of like the shop mother, is what I was told, because a lot of the guys would come to me and be like, "Really, like, I'm just having a rough day. And like, you're just so nice. And like, you bring sunshine. Like, look at the sunshine, and I
Wow.
just remember being like, that was so descriptive. And to see it unfold in front of my eyes, I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I
Mhm.
don't remember that. I don't. And it's disappointing because I do want to remember these things. But wow.
Mhm.
Okay. So that was I've got chills and it
Yep.
just I think when something's meant to happen, it comes in clearly. But when there's choices and there's stuff that you don't really have locked in just yet, and the current energy that I'm feeling into,
Mhm.
it can be like an either or, and it's not as clear, but it's a direction. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and I think that's one of the things that people don't understand. Like, even when I'm on that medium chat, they're like, can you describe my next boyfriend? And
Mm.
I'm like, well, I feel like you're in a relationship already. Are you in a relationship now? They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm married. Well, no, I can't do your next boyfriend because it's not gonna. You know what I'm saying? No.
Yes.
But there was one. I think it was last. I was on late last night. I couldn't sleep, so I just hopped
Mhm.
on, and I had like three or four people, just boom, 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 and it was kind of
All right.
cool. Yeah, but there was this one lady asking me to describe her current boyfriend, and I'm like, I couldn't see him for the life of me. Finally, I'm like, are you guys happy, or are you in a separated, or is there something going on between the two of you guys? And she's like, oh yeah, well, he's ignoring me because we're not actually officially dating, because you're not together, you know. I go,
Oh.
but I do see
Mm.
this guy with dark rimmed glasses, military haircut. I go, and what I forgot what I thought he was wearing or something. And she's like, oh my God, that's so and so. I haven't spoken to him in years, but he reached out to me last night.
Mm.
Oh, maybe you should answer him. So it really, really depending on the person's current energy. Because, you know, we all have free will and the future can change. It really can. And it depends on the frame of mind you're in, and it really like what direction you want to go in, if it's supposed to happen or not. You know what I'm saying? Put something like that when it was in your destiny, you're actually gonna do it.
Right.
You know,
If it's meant
so
for you, it will be. If
it
it's
will
not,
be.
then it won't.
And then every road leads to your purpose, your path.
Mm.
And that one of the things I kind of wanted to bring up today was how people are always asking me, what is my purpose? I feel so lost, blah, blah, blah. And the answer will always be approach everything from the heart space with love. That's your
Mm.
purpose, is to love the space you're in right now, because that's only going to bring more towards you.
Ugh. Trust the process.
Just the process.
You
Yes,
all
yes,
know how we love trusting the process.
yeah. And patient.
Yeah.
That's my favorite word, not, you know, Aries, man. We want it now. We want it yesterday.
I feel that. I'm not an Aries, but I still feel that.
Yes, it's so, and I think because we've been in a holding pattern for so long that we're just like, okay, what more can we manifest or try to put out to the universe?
Hmm.
What more can we do for this to happen? And it really, it's up to divine timing. We can't push that. We can't force that. So it's just love the moment you're in.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh man. I'm just like looking at these emails. It's so funny. Like, so I'm looking at one from December of 2021. And this is must have been when I was starting to ask actual questions versus just being like, I want guidance. But you broke it down into each question too. So like this one, you said you pulled three cards out for some clarification in regards to your first question. What did I see or witness as a child that blocked me or made me go into the cave for protection?
Oh,
Yeah. And then there was another one. Let me see. There's this one. For your next question, I'm feeling a little lost with my job and career. How do I begin to know what to focus on with achieving the goal of a job within the holistic spiritual healing community? You pulled some cards for that. Um, the last few cards are telling me that you have internal conflicts that are a mystery. Oh yeah, no figure. But yeah, you like pull cards in relation to whatever the question is. And then you give such good, beautiful insight. As the one who is doing the reading and getting these messages and stuff to give to the person, what is your advice for the sitter or the person receiving the email or that is being read? Like, I know that we always kind of talk about in each podcast letting go of the outcome and the expectation of what you have. I know I've recently like had a breakthrough at one point, and I posted in the Facebook group that it's very hard to hear, God, the universe, your
Yeah.
ancestors, your loved one, or whatever, if you've already decided what you want them to say or what you want to hear. So
Yeah.
you're not going to get the message because you're already like, well, I only want to hear that I'm going to get a job where I'm making $1
Yes.
million. And if you say anything less, I'm not going to listen to it.
Yeah.
So how would you, other than like like I said, what we always say, let go of the outcome, let go of the control of what you want to hear. How can we better prepare, or like what should we do as the one wanting the reading in order to get like the best results, or to get, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, first of all, don't shoot the messenger. We are
Oh,
just, we just, we try to put out what we receive. And it may not always make sense. And that's why we say don't be attached to the outcome, because you just don't really know, with all the changes and all the uncertainties and all the stuff going on in the world right now. We really truly are struggling just to be in the present moment right now. Right.
Yes.
So really being attached to the outcome can really hurt the sitter or the person receiving the messages. Because what if there's something better waiting for you, but you're so focused on this, you're completely missing the better part. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
My advice to email, especially with email readings, is to sit with it for a couple of days. Just sit with it, absorb it, read it as many times as you need to really, really try and truly understand the energy of the words in the email. Because, like I said, there's sometimes, again, a couple of days ago, I had an email reading with somebody, and she could not wrap her head around something I was saying. I don't remember what it was now, but it was something that she just couldn't wrap her head around. And I was like, well, take a few minutes, just sit with that information. And it may not make sense to you, but it might a few down the road to help you understand what that meant. She was just like, well, I don't know if this was even worth my time. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry you're dissatisfied, but I am really, really going to encourage you to just sit with this information. Fast forward to this morning to write, I just went through my closet. Oh, now I remember what it was. Her grandfather had passed away with a message for her, and she couldn't understand the message. Turned out, I repeated a sentence that she had in this letter from her grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that crazy? So, yeah. So it's like you just don't understand. And I remember that sentence that she had something to do with the garden that he had outside or something. So he wanted her to like remember that because it helped her back then, and he thought it would help her again now. So it was just kind of like, you may not always get the message, but if you sit with it, Spirit will find a way to bring you to what you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of that too, because
Please.
I know I have gotten email readings from you where I don't necessarily maybe understand the message, or I can't like resonate with it like in that moment, because maybe the things that you were bringing forward haven't happened yet in the sense of the situation. So
Uh-huh.
like I know that there have been I was just trying to like quickly look through to see if there was something that like at the time I was like, yeah, right. And then like days later, weeks later, months later, even years later, now like I'm reading some of these ones from 2020 and 2021 where I was like, oh, that's unfolded now, or this unfolded like a couple of months ago, and I'm talking 2024, and now
Wow.
the message makes sense, or now that situation that I was asking about and that you brought forward information for or whatever has come forward and has been validated or whatever. And it's just spirit, and I know we've talked about this in another episode, spirit does not have a concept of time.
I
Like
do not.
time is a true illusion that is man-made because of the society we live in and greed and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. I'm not going to go into that, but spirit has no timeline, no concept of time. So if you're asking about something and something comes up and it doesn't really fit into the box that you have right now, maybe that's because there's a different box coming and you're going to have to look at this box and this will make more sense even though you
Yeah.
asked about this box. That's the only way I can kind of think about. Been times that I don't ever try to get stuck on like the things that are brought forth. I'm
Yeah.
human, so I do get stuck on them. I try not to. And then, like I said, rereading some of these, like I said, from 2021, 2020, I'm like, whoa, the profound message that now, like,
Awesome. That's very interesting for me to hear this, but your perspective, because sometimes I wonder, like, I always know the message is never wrong. It's
mm-hmm,
really how the other person takes it and when it takes place. So that's very, very validating for me to know that part of it and to get that word out there that it's not always instant. You
yep,
know, it does. I guess you do see years down the road
mm-hmm,
and it just you think it's now because spirit like you said has no concept of time and the past and the future and the present are all happening at the same time. Even
mm-hmm,
we can't wrap our heads around that sometimes or even fathom how that's possible, but that's where all these dimensions and all this stuff comes in, that's
yep,
a whole nother podcast. but um
yes,
but yeah, it kind of very interesting for me to hear you say that because it just proves that it's all happening. It's all happening right
mm-hmm,
now. You know what I mean?
yep,
Wow. Okay. And it's kind of interesting too because my son is kind of having a hard time with life, just life. Kind of reminds me of you
mm-hmm,
back then, where like
sure,
everything's up in the air, everything is not going right, everything feels so heavy and so I don't want to say dramatic, but it's a lot, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, life
And,
is a lot.
and last night he had moved out, but he stayed with us for a couple of days because his partner was out of town and he wanted mommy time. Isn't that
Sure.
sweet? But anyway, he would say, "Mom, do you mind pulling some tarot cards for me?" And I thought, yeah, let's go do that. So I pulled the
Okay,
cards for
okay.
him. And he really has a lot going for himself. But he wants to know when. Is it going to happen soon? Is it going to happen? When is this going to happen? And I'm like, honey, all I keep hearing is soon. I feel like it's going to happen now. But I really don't know because it could be 5 years down the line.
You know what I mean? Because it might be happening
Mm-hmm.
now then, but not now.
Right.
So I'm very like hesitant to give out time frames, but sometimes I feel very like that urge to do it. Somebody's playing with
Mm-hmm.
my hair. Somebody's totally playing with my hair right now. Like ding ding ding, you got it. you know? I think you're freezing, my dear. Hold on 1 second. Of that. Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, we're back. Wow, I don't know what happened now, but
No, we do know what
oh, we
happened.
do know. We had to figure it out, but we're back, and we have to just say, come try out an email reader. I think what I'm going to do for my YouTube listeners, if you wish out to me and say I heard you on YouTube, I will give you a discount.
Ooh, discounts are always fun. What do you guys think?
Yeah, yeah. So if you guys do that, I will definitely give you a discount and maybe a little, I'll pull a charm or two to go along with that. We
Ooh,
haven't talked about the charm reading, which
but that's going to be part 2 of this episode, so stay tuned, everybody
Yay!
listening.
Thank you as always for listening, and we will come right back. I'm
See you
good.
guys soon.
Bye.